Across the African continent and many remote areas around the globe, the lack of access to menstrual hygiene products due to high costs has had a major impact on millions of women and girls. But despite these challenges, things are changing, where girls can go to school and women remain employed. Hello everyone and welcome to Our Voices. I am Jeannie Niwa, joined by my co-host Oriane Tangishaka.
Hi.
Simine Shekoye is out today. On this edition of Our Voices, we'll take a closer look at how many initiatives have been launched in sub-Saharan African countries to promote greater access to sanitary pad initiatives that will have far-reaching implications for the future of women and girls. Hello, Oriane. So, period poverty is associated with social, cultural, and economic barriers to menstrual products, education, and sanitation. What have been your experience regarding access to menstrual products?
Well, being in the West, I can say that I'm fortunate that that's not one of the things I have as an issue on my list because of, it's very accessible, it's everywhere. And so the access issue is not really a problem. But, when you look at some places on the continent, women and girls really struggle with accessing these products, let alone them being expensive. But you know that nonetheless, women in places like Kenya are fighting to have these products available. They're the ones that you've
society.
Definitely, yeah, definitely. I mean, you still, even a grown woman, when you walk into a store, you're like, oh my God, who's watching, who's looking, as if, it's ingrained in you that
Absolutely.
It's a shameful thing, but as a grown woman, you still feel that.
Yeah, and when I was young, I remember using my mother's pad just because we didn't have this conversation. So I never felt comfortable saying, hey, I'm missing. No, I was just waiting until, there was pads available and I will use hers. And if there weren't any, I would just use toilet paper just because I was young and, it was never a casual conversation. The only time we had this conversation is when I had my menstrual, and then you have this conversation. They all goes to boys, now, you can get pregnant. So it
shifts to sex.
Yes,
like what's
exactly.
what's the connection?
None.
This is just period. It's,
yes. And now that pressure, that embarrassment is also, so imagine when it's, the culture is very taboo. It's
for sure, for sure. Yeah. Well, yes. Thank you for touching on that difficult topic today as we dive right into it. In our next report, we'll see how public-private partnerships in Kenya is providing female students with free sanitary napkins dispensed from a converted ATMs at school. The goal is to provide students from poor families with sanitary pads so that they do not have to miss school because they are in their menstrual cycles. Victoria Amunga reports from Nairobi.
Often female students in Kenya who come from poor families are forced to miss school during menstruation because the price of sanitary pads out of reach. But the Kenyan aid group called Slum Sana launched an initiative at a Nairobi high school in May that provides free pads for female students. Here is how they're dispensed to students at schools. Each girl is given a special card they can use at an ATM machine that has been converted to dispense sanitary pads.
Each girl is allocated at least 8 to 16 pads per cycle, meaning every time they want to use the pads, they can be able to do that as long as they have their cards. Another thing is that if they don't have their cards, let's say they forget it at home or someone misplaces them, the teachers are given an extra card.
The Kenyan government says studies show girls from poor families miss 20% of school days each year because they do not have sanitary pads. The pad dispenser machine can hold up to 36 pads and run on solar power in remote areas, says Munira Twahir, the creator of what's called ARI, the pad ATM.
Technology is very important in solving these problems, especially in the space that we're in, which is menstrual health management. There's not a lot of hardware technology or hybrid technology to solve it. So I think this allows for students to have autonomy, so we cut off the middleman.
Officials say the initiative is being implemented in Nairobi and they hope to expand it to other parts of the country too. Quinta Atieno is one of the about 1,200 students who officials say have a pad dispenser card.
it's going to help us maintain being in school. Now you see, most of our parents are not going to be required to buy the sanitary pads themselves since it's easily accessible in school.
A 2017 law, Kenya says female students who reach puberty must be provided free sanitary pads, but educators say a lack of access continues to be a big problem and affects students who cannot afford them.
Our girls suffer from low self-esteem because of those issues of begging from people. They beg from the teachers who are in school. They even come to the principal's office to say they don't have a pad and they are on their menses. And we've tried to support as many as possible, but the numbers are beyond our ability.
Activists are pressing Kenya to waive taxes on sanitary pads to lower the cost. Until then, advocates say technologies like the pad dispenser help lift the burden from the girls and allow them to attend class just like other students. Victoria Amunga, VOA News, Nairobi.
Thanks, Victoria. This is such a game changer for these students' initiatives that we love to see here. To discuss further about menstrual pad accessibility, joining us via Skype is Michelle Tjeenk Willink, Head of Partnerships and Communication at AFRIPad, the world's leading social enterprise manufacturing reusable sanitary pad. Did I say your name right?
You did.
Oh, that's perfect.
Well, let's dive right into it. Do you see this as a solution in combating period shaming? Because, you know, avoiding going to the stores. And if so, what should be done to make these dispensable, these machines available in much more locations?
Yeah, no, I think that's a great solution. It allows girls more privacy to access the pads and as they need them. So that solves one of the major issues. But stigma is incredibly complicated around menstruation. So at AFRIPads, we make the reusable pads, which means the package that you have can last for 2 years. So that also reduces the need to be searching every month as you get your period for products or in the shop or having to ask others. But with a reusable pad, you do need to wash and dry it. So there's not one perfect solution combating stigma, but I think the importance and what we saw with the dispensers is that it's being talked about, that we're bringing it out in the open, that it's natural, it's normal, and that you have this education around it. And I think that's probably the most important part to combat this these feelings of shame.
Yeah. And 2 years, that's a very good longevity. Is there any other features about your pad that makes it different than the other ones on the market?
Yes, so AFRIPads was founded as one of the solutions to combat this period poverty issue. And we saw that perhaps the most sustainable solution could be this washable product so that it can last longer. So it's a much more sustainable product for the individual and also for the environment. But it's also that that what you see on the market is a lot of products have very many chemicals, and the quality is not so high. So that causes other issues, rashes, itching, potential for infection. So that's another reason for this high quality, chemical-free cloth pad.
And it's really a great thing when you talk about a company for women, by women, and the fact that, you know, you employ women. It's really, really commendable. Now, let's talk about the cost, longevity, distribution. What are some of the challenges that the company faces in its mission to promote reusable sanitary pads?
Yeah, that's a good question. So indeed, the cost efficiency is wonderful if it can be communicated well. Buying a reusable product like this is in the lifespan of the product, it's about 6 times cheaper than always buying disposable pads or throwaway products. However, the first time off the shelf, it seems more expensive. It's like an investment, and to invest in your period and invest in yourself as women and girls is kind of, you know, is not always the most accepted concept. So that is one challenge sometimes, this communication, and that menstruation just does not stay top priority. We also rely on governments to prioritize it, or funding agencies.
Right.
And with the shift in crisis, sometimes that's the first one to be knocked down. But it's really important for gender equality, as we all know.
But also, I think that when you think about reusable sanitary pads, you also have to think about, you know, the hygiene part of it, you know, washing it. Does it come with soap to clean them? Because that's another cost.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. So you do need a little bit of soap. It's just a laundry bar soap, and a small piece will last a long time. We do provide it on request as part of kits at times. It's not something we currently make, but that is true that you do need soap to wash it, but it is a minimal extra cost, let's say. But it's true about the need for drying, and that the best thing is to dry outside.
On the continent. There's plenty of sun. That wouldn't be an issue because there's plenty of sun. Right.
Yeah, there's plenty of sun. That's true.
What about your $5 million project? How is that? Can you briefly tell us a little bit about that before we end?
Sure. Well, so that's the 5 million is the number of women we reached actually since founding in 2010. I'm proud to say it's now more than 6 million women and girls, not just in Uganda, but across Africa and the Middle East. And we are hoping to expand that to be far more widely available on the shelves in rural areas as well as in the urban centers across Africa. So the discussion around VAT exemptions and tax exemptions around menstrual products will help greatly there.
Nice. That's very, very nice. Well, thank you so much, Ms. Willink, for joining us. So Ms. Willink is the head of partnerships and communication at the AFRIpads. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
Well, it's now time for a quick break, but we'll continue our conversation on gaining greater access to sanitary pads. We will also love to hear from you on our social media platforms. We are, of course, on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, X, formerly known as Twitter. And our handle is at VOA Africa. We use the hashtag VOA Africa. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
In times of change, when the world seems uncertain and what we hear doesn't reflect what we see, we seek the truth. When we are told only part of the story, we lose trust. In moments of crisis, our dreams, hopes, and wishes for a better tomorrow depends on a free press. At Voice of America, we bring you the stories that people take risks to see. We connect the world and unite it with truth. At Voice of America, we show you the whole picture.
Health, wellness, sport, beauty, medical breakthroughs. Healthy Living cares about your well-being. What are the main health concerns in Africa and around the world? Find out the latest on coronavirus. Connect with our experts and ask them questions.
How long does the virus stay?
Join me, Linor Moudou, in Washington, every week on Healthy Living, right here on VOA.
You're watching VOA's Red Carpet. My name is Jackson Vunganyi. Thank you so much for joining us each week right here on Red Carpet. We bring you the latest in
Welcome back. You are watching Our Voices, and we are discussing gaining greater access to sanitary pads. Now let's hear about the experience of women in Johannesburg, South Africa, from Loni Twala, Nolwandu Sokutu, Nelisiwe Songelwa, and Naledi.
I feel that sanitary pads in South Africa should be free because not everyone can afford or be at the accessibility of sanitary pads. So I feel as though we know that our economy is not great, but they could start by making small differences by giving out sanitary pads, because it's also it's not something that we do or us girls have by choice.
We don't afford to buy those things each and every month.
Can they please provide us with pads for free, maybe from the schools, the public places, the clinics? Yes, and not those ones that we get for 5 rands. No, the ones that we get for expensive prices. Can they please provide us for free with those ones?
If it is hard for them to get sanitary pads, like to give out sanitary pads for free, I think they should take some of their tax money that other people pay, so that they should invest it in something else other than the infrastructure that needs to be rebuilt every now and again, when you can get bright young girls being not worrying about pads and worrying about something else that's going to invest in their future.
To discuss this further, we welcome Ms. Najma Mohamed, the program coordinator at We for She, community-based organization working towards gender equality based in Mombasa, Kenya. Ms. Mohamed, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Great. So can you tell us more about the situation in Kenya regarding access to menstrual products?
The situation in Kenya is actually dire when it comes to menstrual products. For instance, according to the African Medical Research Foundation, over 65% of young women and girls are not able to afford sanitary towels. And there's another study that even shows us that one in every 10, 15-year-olds engages in sexual activities to get money to buy sanitary towels. So it is dangerous because it's one of the factors that lead to teenage pregnancies and teenage school dropouts. So yeah, the situation is very sad.
Wow, this is a very big issue in many parts of the continent, many parts of underdeveloped world.
Yeah.
Now, what is your mission, and what are some success stories that can give hope?
Yeah, so our mission at We for She is to make sure that every girl gets education, and by that we want to ensure that nothing stops them from getting education, because so many of these girls miss school, like we had before, 20% of their school days due to sanitary towels. Whenever they're on their periods, they can't go to school because they don't have sanitary towels. And some of the options that they use or alternatives are quite unhygienic or unsafe. There are people who use cow dung. There are people who use cotton.
I've heard about that.
Yeah.
How does that work? Cow dung?
Yeah, they take the cow dung, shape it in the form of a pad, and then let it dry and then use it on top of their panty. But worse still, in the places that I have personally experienced, is we had young girls, when they were menstruating, they would go somewhere like under a tree. So they would miss school for the 5 days, and they would go somewhere like under a tree, dig a hole and sit on it for the whole day. So they would sit on it and let the blood flow to the ground.
Oh, God.
And then in the evening, they would go home and they would be given a piece of cloth to use for the night.
Oh.
So because those places mostly lack water and clean water to be, so they wash their cloth in the morning and then they have to go back to the place the whole day. So what does this do? One, of course, they lose their dignity, you know, they suffer from self-esteem. And it also exposes them to things like diseases, and also engaging in some dangerous activities in order to get pads, because you know they are exposed, they're out there. Yeah. Anyone who passes by, there are these people we call boda boda guys in Kenya. Yes. So they would pass by and they'd be like, why are you out here? And they're like, you know, I'm in my days and I can't afford sanitary towels. And so they buy them the pads. They buy them first month, second month, third month. And then at some point they want to be paid back.
Yeah, for sure.
So how do you pay
Absolutely.
back?
Yeah. And you're talking about this financial burden. You are in Kenya. We cannot, ignore what happened for days, on a female tax on products. You're also fighting against the financial bill. Where are we with that?
Also, right now it's been taken aside, but it's because of all the outcry that was in the public that made to this, because as it is, the sanitary towels are expensive and unaffordable. So the finance bill was proposing an extra eco-levy on imported products, which would have affected sanitary towels and diapers. And that is why we were protesting against it, because this would only make it more expensive and much more unaffordable to people.
Right.
And we are grateful because of all that attention that we brought to it and all the protests. It bore fruit, and it's not going through.
Right, wow, that's great. And Kenya being a very strong economy on the continent, we're hoping that when things change there, it's a good indication that things might change elsewhere. But thank you, Ms. Mohamed. Stay with us now. It's time for our Women to Watch segment. We go to Ghana, where a teacher, Amdia Abdul Latif, is making a difference in the lives of young girls who are forced to miss school days, as you've said, due to menstruation by providing reusable sanitary pads. Hamza Adams tells us more.
In Afari, a remote town in Ghana's Ashanti state, a teacher has found an innovative solution to a common but rarely discussed problem. Amdia Abdulatif, a teacher at a 200-student school, noticed a problem. Her female students were regularly absent from class.
When I started teaching in this school in Afari town, I discovered that many female students do not come to school when they are menstruating due to period poverty.
Period poverty, Abdulatif says, is a term commonly associated with lack of access to sanitary pads or cleaning products. This pushes young girls to miss school during the time of the month they menstruate. Abdulatif founded EcoMe Africa, a reusable sanitary pads production facility, to offer her students products for free. She says it was important that the products are easy to clean and environmentally friendly.
Organic, sustainable fabric, biochemicals.
We're using organic, sustainable fabric to make these pads. We don't add any kind of chemical. The materials we're using are antimicrobials. The pads are reusable. Users can wash and dry them after use. It's affordable, healthy, and also good for the environment.
This student says the free sanitary pads have made a major impact.
I'm going to feel comfortable in going to school, and I really like it very, very much.
Ghana isn't the only place facing this issue. A 2022 report by the UN estimated that 1 in 10 girls in sub-Saharan Africa miss school during their period or eventually drop out altogether. For Hamza Adam in Afari Town, Ghana, Salam Solomon, VOA News.
In particular, we have a very big issue with lack of water. So, and the reusable pads, you need to wash them really well to prevent yourself from getting diseases, if it's not washed well and dried up well. So to get that water to clean the pads every day or twice a day is not very easy for the people that we've worked with. I mean, the places that we've visited, they have very little water, and even the water is not as clean as it should be.
So that definitely wouldn't be a solution.
It wouldn't be a solution to the places that we go to.
Okay. Well, I guess at least it's a good solution in terms of longevity of really trying to curb that buying every day.
Yes.
And also I think pollution as well, because
you find it's good for the environment.
Right.
I mean, for places where they don't have an issue with water, that's actually a solution to sanitary towels.
So I think that's a legitimate concern, and also you pointed out very well that it needs to be really washed well so that it doesn't bring any infections. But I think it's also a way for African problems, African solutions, making sure that these reusable sanitary pads are there so that you don't have to keep buying.
Right.
Yes.
But it's a legitimate concern.
Still more progress
to be made. Do you see a light at the end of the tunnel in terms of making the pads accessible in school systems by the government, perhaps?
So the government has a program to distribute sanitary towels in Kenya.
Is it working well?
I can't say that it's working well. It has its challenges.
Okay, at least it's there.
It's there, but it's not sufficient. And that is why so many organizations like ours have to come through and chip in where the government is not doing it right. But I think they have the capacity and the resources to make sure that every girl gets sanitary towels.
Do you work together with the government?
No, we don't.
Is that something you're hoping to do?
Yes, that's something we're looking forward to do.
Very well, because I mean, definitely to close the gaps.
Yes. I mean, it has to be a collective responsibility.
Correct. I agree.
Well, this is where we end our show. We thank our guest, Michelle Tjeenk Willink, Head of Partnership and Communication at AFRIpads, and Ms. Najma Mohamed here, Program Coordinator at We4She, for joining us. It was an absolute pleasure. Be sure to watch our voices on VOA website at voaafrica.com or our YouTube channel, where you can catch up on the latest episode and top news stories from around the world. Now, on behalf of my co-host, editors, production teams, and everyone here at Voice of America, thanks for tuning in Our Voices. We'll see you again next week with another exciting program. Until then, be a light for yourself and others. Cheers.